Hi, everyone. So today we're continuing our interview series with flight training leaders from around the world. Today I have the pleasure to speak with Hemanth DP, who is the CEO of Asia Pacific Flight Training, one of India's leading flight schools, which has currently four aircraft simulators and is the flight training partner of large pilot training groups such as Skyborne and L3 to do their conversion programs and to do flight training for the airline cadetship programs. Hemanth, welcome to the interview. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you very much, and pardon me for the appearance. I did not shave like most of us, I guess, didn't do during this, being a bit lazy at home. Yeah, taking advantages of the lockdown.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
yeah. Other
So,
than that, I see that you're, neatly and smartly dressed as always. Yeah, but good to be speaking to you.
thank you, thank you. So, I've been following Asia Pacific flight training for a number of years. I've come visited you in Hyderabad as well. It would be great if you could introduce the organization, everything you offer, the kind of size you have, and any kind of new deals or developments that you have announced over this past year.
All right. As you know, we have been in operations for now about 9 years in the country. We're based out of Rajiv Gandhi International Airport at Hyderabad. This was a former JV between a foreign company in Malaysia and GMR Hyderabad International Airport, and then finally a wholly owned subsidiary, and now it's an independent company. So, and we operate out of two airports, one out of Begumpet Airport, the old airport. Both are Code E, Code F airports with international airspace. We have more than 600 flight movements a day from both the airports put together. So our cadets train in a very busy international airspace. So the radio, telephony, and other is pretty advanced on day one. Having said that, it's also a bit of a challenge to operate in the middle of these two airports. But that's the plus. We have managed to do well. We have a good relationship with the ATC and the airports, both the airports. So we do that. Now, we, as you mentioned already, that we, other than our direct cadet program, we already have a contract with the L3 CDC since last 2 years. We've been training Indigo cadets for conversion. And also now we signed a contract with Skyborne for their cadet program starting somewhere towards the latter part of this year. They're expected to send over 100 cadets a year. Overall, we have trained and our pilots are placed in all the 8, 9 Indian airlines, Jet Airways that closed now, but we had in that as well. So including all major Indigo, SpiceJet, Vistara, AirAsia, Air India, and TrueJet and Go Air and everyone. Majority are, of course, in Indigo. And we're also very proud of the fact that 97.5% of our cadets are employed and they're working in these airlines. Those 1% who are not, that's by choice. Some have shifted abroad and so on and so forth. So it's 100% placement. Other than the airline cadet program and the conversion program, we also do advanced private pilot training program for Honeywell. Now, Honeywell, as you know, is an aerospace company. They design, avionics, including black boxes and, digital cockpits, etc. So Honeywell CEO felt that people who design these avionics should also have an experience of flying. Otherwise, it's like a car engineer designing a car who's never driven a car in his life. So, which is a very novel concept. And they approached us, and we put in a special program for them, an ATR program called Advanced Private Pilot License. So it includes about 150 hours of classroom study and about 80 hours of flying. So we have done now multiple batches for them. We also been selected by Civil Aviation Authority of Nepal to do their ATPL theory training. We do ATPL theory as well. Other than CPL, PPL, we do conversion. Then we do Assistant Flight Instructor rating, MEIR rating, and ATPL theory, and tailor-made programs for Honeywell and such. So that's some of it. And we use a Diamond fleet, Diamond DA40 and 42, glass cockpit. These are, as you know, carbon fiber body, composite material. We use a Continental Tiller diesel engine. It's a Mercedes engine. And we are the only one in the country currently which is all on an ATF fueled fleet. And we are looking to increase the fleet size by another 6. We are in discussion. Hopefully that should happen by this year end. And various discussions and contractual these things are in afloat. Now, we are also looking to keeping in mind that we are working out of a busy international airspace. That is why we have only 4 aircraft. We are now planning to get more, since we are planning to get more aircraft, we are also looking at a new airport. So we are in the final stages of discussion to get to that, move to that new airport, which would be about 80-90 nautical miles from our current base. So it's like a day drive. It's about 2.5 to 3 hours drive by road. So we would keep the current base as well, but we'll also start flying out of the new airport, which is a brand new airport. It's not even inaugurated yet. So we have signed an NDA and an MOU. So at this time, because of that, I would not be able to tell you the name of the airport, but it's within the vicinity, 70-80 nautical miles. Matter of fact, we're in discussion with 2 airports. So we would move there. Now there, with the additional fleets, we can literally increase our capacity. With the current fleet itself and the new addition, we can increase it by close to 200%, which is what most of the airlines want, because flight training in India, leaving the COVID issue apart, everybody is talking about India is going to be the 3rd largest aviation market in the world by 2024, 25. Okay, with all the current crisis, maybe it's pushed by a few months, maybe a year, but ultimately it's got to be there. Now, this is set based on certain other clear assumptions. We are a country, we're the 2nd largest country in terms of population. As you know, we are 1.2 billion plus, and we are also the 7th largest country in the world. We're 3.7 million square kilometers spread north to east. We're spread over close to 4 time zones. But we only have 690 odd aeroplanes, plus minus. Some are replaced, some are joined. Now, if you look at, we're going to be the 3rd largest by 2024. The 2nd largest, which is China, has close to 7,000 aeroplanes. Now, the difference is massive. 7,000 versus 700. Country is not 10 times smaller than China. Neither is the economy, nor is the population, nor is the land size. China is close to around 9 million square kilometers. It's about nearly triple the size, or 2.5 times the size. But it's not 1/10.
Yeah.
So reason is that we are fairly underdeveloped in terms of aviation. Though we are moving close to 300 million passengers, that looks huge, but it's not, 25% of our population flying. Though we are 1.2 billion, doesn't mean that 300 million means we are flying 25%. These are all multiple flyers like you and me who take 50, 100 flights a year are counted as 100. So if you take unique flyers, we're only about 6 to 8% of our countrymen and women are flying. 90% of the country has not flown at all. Now, that is not a situation which you can have in 21st century, 2020. You can't have just 6 to 8% of India flying when we are the 5th largest economy and the 2nd largest in terms of population. And it's not even that all of them cannot afford to fly. They say another 100 million families, let's say of 3, can at least afford to fly once a year on a holiday.
Yeah.
Okay. That in itself adds about a family of 3, means about 250 million passengers can be added in one shot if these people fly. 65% of our flying passengers come from Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Chennai, Calcutta, Kochi, the major metros.
Yeah.
65 to 70%. 30% is spread in the rest of the country. But does not match the demographics. That's not how the population and the economic spread is. Economic spread is fairly even. Northeast, South contributes about 90%, and Northwest, South contributes about 85 to 90%, and East contributes about 10% of the GDP, which means all of these areas should equally contribute towards flying.
Yeah.
But because the concentration has been only on metros, that's why the metro passengers are flying fairly well, but the rest of the country is not yet that much. So there are a lot of new airports which are coming up, and you might have heard of the UDAN scheme and the RCS scheme. RCS is Regional Connectivity Scheme. UDAN stands for the, it translates in English into every citizen of India will fly.
Yeah.
UDAN, Udega Desh Ka Aam Nagrik, which means every citizen of India will fly, which is the right way to go. And with these airports opening up, these regional connectivity schemes taking off, which has already taken off very well in the last 2 years, and those airports are doing well, this number will exponentially grow. So for which, currently there are over 1100,000 plus aircraft on order for various airlines. Indigo, you might have heard, has ordered 500 odd. Vistara is coming up, AirAsia is coming up, Indigo, SpiceJet, and so on and so forth. Despite Jet Airways collapsing, that did delay it by a year or so, but still, like I said, 670 or 600 planes is too low. So with 1,000 aeroplanes on order, the thumb rule is that per aircraft, you need about 7 sets of pilots, 7 commanders and 7 first officers. So for 1,000 aircraft, you need 7,000 pilots. Of the 7,000 pilots, 7,000 are commanders, but 7,000 are ab initio first officers. Now, current production capacity in the country is as low as 350 to 400.
Correct me
So
if
if
I'm
you do the
wrong,
math,
there's around 35 flight schools currently in the country, right? But a
there's
number of
supposed
them
to be
only
about
got like 1 or 2.
Yeah, there's supposed to be about 32, but not all of them are doing to their full capacity or operating fully, or their aircraft are fully operational, and so on and so forth. And also issues like airport congestion or their inability to fly in certain airspaces because of either defense or commercial airspace overlapping, etc., is also not letting this all 30 odd schools do to the full extent. Like I said, for example, in Hyderabad, given the opportunity of a clean airspace, we can increase flying by another 40 to 50% easily. Okay, that is why we're going to a new airport. So if you do the mathematics of 350 and 7,000, you will need 21 years to train these 7,000 pilots. Okay, I'm not sure about you. You're a young man. I sure will be retired by it. Okay, so obviously we can't have that, right? You can't have 1,000 airplanes in 3 years, 4 years, and have pilots coming in 21 years. Which is why we are forced to go abroad, go to New Zealand, US, South Africa, everywhere to train pilots and train them on time. Before this, I was the executive vice president and COO and chief commercial officer at GMR Hyderabad International Airport.
Yes.
And part of my duties, we used to have airlines come, and one major airline came and said that we need a parking slot from 2,000 upwards. So I asked the chief commercial officer, I said, why do you want to park it at 20? Why don't you do 2-3 more sorties? You can fly till 23 easily, 1 hour sectors. He says, Hemanth, do you think I want to park an aircraft for 3 hours when I can fly? I'm short of pilots. I can't fly. They're out of FDTL, so I have to park. I thought that was bad when another smaller airline came and asked me for a parking slot at 16:30 in the evening. I said, are you serious? 16:30, which means you're going to block my parking for the entire evening. That could have given me another at least 5-6 more flights. He's saying, yes, we don't have pilots. That's the reason we have to park. So you have existing airlines parking aircraft, and you heard that, major airlines, some of them canceling as many as 30 to 40 flights a day because of shortage of pilots, and pilot fatigue sets in, and so on and so forth. So irrespective whether it's corona issue or recession or whatever, that is okay when your market is at maturity level. Okay. You need, US apparently has over 10,000. My ex-company, I used to work for FedEx. They have they have more, more aircraft as a single company than the whole of the India put together in commercial airspace. And I have not even touched the general aviation airspace. That's another, space where there is a lot more to come, because a country like India, it's not easy to, if you are a busy executive and you want to do 2 or 3 cities in a day, it's not possible. Okay, you will spend half the time, connecting flights. So you take a commercial plane, you fly a couple of hours, and you can do 2-3 meetings in a city and come back to your home. for a highly paid executive. That is far more cheaper than, sitting in an airport lounge for 2 hours for each flight.
Yeah.
So that's another section which is untouched. Okay, so if you put together, then the requirement goes into 2,000-3,000, and the government saying in the next 10 years they want to get 2,000 more aeroplanes, which means from 600 it will go to 2,600 to 2,700. That is 400% growth.
Yeah.
Okay, 4x growth rather in 10 years. You do the mathematics. What is it average? Okay, so irrespective of the crises or the economic ups and downs, when you're already underserved in a market, the growth is never a concern because you never reach the growth peak in the first place. Okay, so there will be some hiccups up and down. Sure, some aircraft deliveries might be delayed for a while and so on and so forth. But fundamentally, when you join a cadet program today, you're going to come out in about a year and a half's time.
Yeah.
Year and a half time is a long time. Okay, so even if you're under recession now, you will be well out of it by the time you finish. So this is a good time to start because we're not preparing cakes and buns which has to be sold today evening or tomorrow. Our gestation period is year and a half easy. So which is why call me a good news guy, but that's how I look at it, and that's the reason I'm in it. And we all need to look at it. And if all these parameters that I mentioned are true and they can be checked, they are well documented data, then there's nothing to worry about other than putting your head down and getting this stuff together, get more aeroplanes and start flying people and get our pilots trained.
Yeah, I love your optimism. I fully agree with you. So India has really huge potential. I mean, we've done the studies with our databases, and India has less training aircrafts than a country like the Philippines, whereas the population is 12 times the size in India, and the airlines have got, as you said, thousands of aircraft on order. So the pilot training infrastructure has so much potential. With COVID being here or not, yes, it's a slight obstacle in your growth phase, but it will quickly be overcome. Touching about COVID, how have you been affected at the moment in terms of your operations? Have you seen any effects in terms of how you do things? Have you implemented any new policies to address future challenges?
How we've been affected in one single word, 100%, complete shutdown. 16th of March, we got a direction from the government that all flying institutes have to close because we were taken as part of the educational institute because, there will be some people in the classroom, some people in flying. The flying guys wouldn't have enough. Since it was a blanket order, we stopped. And anyway, few days after that, there was a countrywide lockdown anyway. And we are on a lockdown till 14th of April. The Civil Aviation Minister has said that after 14th, they would start operations, flight operations in a phased manner, of course, taking all care to ensure that people who are coming and going are not infecting each other and so on and so forth, which is understandable and required to ensure that the virus doesn't spread, of course. So that's 1 month completely gone off the calendar, completely unexpected, obviously. And as most aviation companies, our fixed costs are always, majority of the costs are fixed costs. Okay. The only variable cost we have is fuel, some parts and some maintenance, but you don't want to save fuel. You're saving fuel means you're not flying. That's not good. So your rent, your leases, your salaries and all the other stuff, those costs are being incurred. We have paid salary to all our staff for last month and they're still on rolls. We're not laid off anybody. We have continued to pay all our commitments. So naturally, with 1 month gone out of the calendar completely, and we expect even April not to do much better. Maybe whole of April will be lost. So that's about 2 months of revenue gone from the calendar. It's going to be a huge impact for any operating company, not just us. Same as the case with airlines. They stop flying, they don't make revenue. We are all in the front line, as we say, whether it is any crisis, it hits aviation first because people stop flying. Hotels, flights, airlines, restaurants, all of them. Closed down means the cost is still there, The variable cost is minor relatively. Same for airlines. They're also not spending fuel and spare parts, but rest of the costs are accruing. So in order to come out of this, we are hoping, and the industry forums are taking up, engaging with the government to ensure that they give us some kind of a support package to come out during the next 6 months is going to be critical. How do we pay aircraft leases? How do we pay rentals with zero income? And also the government has given a direction not to, truncate anybody's salary and consider people on duty, which we have followed diligently and paid everyone's salary. But, next 6 months is going to be critical because there will be some initial knee-jerk reaction. People will be scared to fly. People will be scared to come out. People will say, okay, I'll wait and watch and all that stuff. And this also happens to be the school ending year. March, April is when the schools do their final exams. So normally it's a good intake point for us because people finish their 12th exam, which is what do you call sixth form in England, I guess, year 13. So they finish the 12th and they pick up a course, whether they want to go into graduation or law or pilot training, etc. So now those exams have also been delayed, which means they might happen somewhere in April. And by the time they come out, it'll be end April or May, which means we lose another month or two or more with almost zero revenue. So no company can sustain, a dip in revenue is bad enough, but zero revenue, it's never happened in the history of the world that, for 2-3 months, businesses are completely closed, whether it was 9/11 or 0708 recession or IT bubble bust. There were ups and downs, but there were never 100% closure. This is an unprecedented stuff. Hence, to come out of it, we have asked government for some tax breaks. Maybe for 6 months, they defer some taxes. We don't pay taxes, and they waive off certain rental requirements. Maybe like some governments have done, that part of the salary is paid by the government. That would be good because we also don't want to lose people and then, rehire them at a later stage when things are well. We would like it to go. And based on what I told you in the beginning of the discussion, that potential wise, we don't see a problem because whoever joins today is going to come out of the institute end 2021. By then, any recession, any cyclical thing, people say they expect a U-shaped improvement. Okay, the stock markets have crashed. They expect them to come up in a U-shape rather than a tapered way because this happened due to a definitive crisis, and it's not a gradual degradation of value of stocks because of economic issue. People just can't go out, hence they're not buying. So with all that, if 6 months is a critical period, then 6 months is what we need support for. And like I said, some rental waivers from the airport side, from the office side, for the aircraft rentals as well, salary support, some tax support. With those, we should be able to tide over. And of course, we'll pay them back. We'll pay them back very well. If you stagger it, let's say 6 months, you waive it off, and then you say you pay it off in over the next couple of years, sure, we'll pay it back. And most importantly, you don't want company to close during this time because then you lose everything. Employment, the ability to pay tax, peripheral employment. We employ about 50 odd people in this company directly, and then further there are other vendors and their connectivity. So it's a multiplier. So that's the support that we require to get through. So we're waiting. It's early days, and I hope something comes through. If all that happens as per plan, I don't see a problem.
Especially, with your school also being very instrumental in terms of supporting the Indian Airlines, as you are actually one of the key players in India when it comes to all of the international cadetship programs for Indian Airlines, where they send the students to you to complete the final training before they join the airline. So you're really instrumental for the industry in India. As part of that, are there any kind of stakeholders which you would like to connect with now during COVID or coming out of COVID as well after this initial obstacle to work together on your growth, or are you seeking to connect with any aircraft manufacturers, simulator manufacturers, airlines? Who would you like to connect with?
Good. That's a good point. Aviation as an industry is all interconnected. These are not disjointed. Okay. First, if you start the cycle, you start it from aircraft manufacturer for training aircraft. They flourish when flight training schools flourish. And flight training schools do well when their pilots are employed and they're getting more pilot trainees. That happens when an airline is hiring, trainees and pilots, and that happens when people are flying, and that happens when the economy is doing well. So it's a cycle. So to start with, any one in isolation cannot do well or cannot do badly. Okay. So in this case, it starts right from the beginning. Like, for example, I told you we are looking to add another 6 airplanes. Now, clearly we had certain budgetary plans that we had done. Now, this 2 months or 3 months of a hole is going to, upset those numbers and plans. Not just for us, I'm sure it's for everybody. So that being the case, the aircraft manufacturers can give us some easy, how do you say, a deferred kind of a deal. Yeah, that we get the aircraft and we pay at a lower tranche in the beginning, and then we pick up as the business picks up. Same goes for airlines. I would say that you never ever look at, when I worked in the airport before that in large companies like FedEx, where I was when the 9/11 issue happened, when the IT bubble bust happened, even when the 0708 recession happened. One of the things our CEO said is that there is no way to shrink your way to success. Okay, cutting down jobs, cutting down size, and say I will shrink my way to make a profit never has worked in the history of the world. The only way is to go aggressive. And we always said that recession is a very good time to expand, because whatever you wanted now is available in abundance, and they're available at a better price. Yesterday you wanted to rent a place, it was X. Today it's X minus 10%, 20%. Same thing with aircraft, same thing with people. Okay, so good, take it up, expand, because you have to see, again, people have been publishing data or social media over the last 2-3 weeks since they had nothing else to do. You go right back to the 70s, 80s recession till now. Each of these, the stock markets, the big crash, the subprime lending issue in US, and all of that, IT issue, 9/11, all of that have taken approximately anywhere from 12 to 15 months. Market has come back to parity. Okay, so and there are those pundits, so-called, and analysts who will profess dungeons of doom and saying, oh, this is it, this is it. We have all heard them before. Okay, it's all right. They're also making a living. It's okay to say that. But like some folks said, if you could just sit behind a computer and run an airline or aviation or any business, then they say geeks would rule the world. Yeah. So that's not the case. So we need to, the leaders at the helm at critical stages, like, for example, airlines. Today, if I was an airline business, I would say, okay, fine. This is my opportunity to go and get those resources and equipment at a much bargain price. Okay, I'll buy it through, I'll spend my way out of recession. Okay, so these dips will happen. Of course, you need to look at your cash flows to ensure that you're able to finance, which is why we have not shelled our plan to get new aircraft, though this is happening over the last 2 weeks. I've been having discussions with my management team. We are very firm that all of us are very confident that we're not going to, truncate our operation in any fashion or let go of the airplanes. So if you do those preparations now, like, what is the best time to buy stocks? Now. What's the best time to buy a house? Now. Okay. You don't wait for the peak to buy. Like my fund manager was telling me, we look at 1 or 2% market correction, sir, to invest in market. We're looking at a 35% market correction. So nobody expects the stock market to stay 35% below. You would expect people to climb. So similarly, everything is climbing. Then get your foot on the base just now, so that you are ahead of the herd when the rush starts, as it surely will.
So I really love your optimism, And it sounds like Asia Pacific Flight Training Academy is that the mindset clearly is there to capture this future potential and to grow your aircraft fleet. Thank you very much, Hemanth. That was really insightful, especially I think for a lot of Indian aspiring pilots. They should know that even anyone who considers starting pilot training now, as you said, in 18 months time, when they actually finish training, things would have normalized, and there's this huge demand for pilot jobs. So thank you very much, and I wish you all the best of luck.
Yeah, one last point that, like you said, when the rush starts, then exactly what I mentioned earlier happens. Then you're parking aircraft because you don't have enough pilots, because you did not do it, plan it well in advance. Okay, and that costs you far, far more. An aeroplane, ACMI, aircraft crew maintenance and insurance and fuel for a 737 or a 320 costs you about $6,000 to $7,000 an hour. So when you park an aircraft for 3 hours, you're losing $20,000 to $30,000 a day. Do the math. That's $100,000 a month and a $1.2 million a year just for 2 to 3 hours for one aircraft. Now, if you have 100 aircraft in your fleets, you're losing 100 million. Now, that is nowhere close to what you would do in terms of starting early and getting those cadets ready, because you should have confidence that you've been in this market long enough to see the ups and downs, that in another year and a half's time, market will be up there. So you are putting today what you expect to come out. That's like if you want to build a house and you need your house 2 years from now, you start building today. You don't start building 2 years from now, because then 2 years you'll be without a house. So that's the thing. And I look for airlines to come and, as I said, we're increasing capacity, and we can do those arrangements just now so that you are well and ready when we are out of this temporary setback that we are all forced to face. Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and have a lovely afternoon.
You too.